as I'm getting from my seat up to, I've just been introduced, I hear this voice, or I just have this knowing, and this isn't something that happens to me a lot. But it was like, you were born for this.
Oh my God, I love it.
You're listening to the Spiritual Shitshow podcast with Suzanne Soul, episode 77.
Hey, all you gorgeous rays of light and love, and welcome to the Spiritual Shitshow podcast, where we get into the carnival ride the healing and spiritual awakening journey can be. I'm your host, Suzanne Soul, comedian, lifelong spiritual student, and I'm sharing some of the tasty treats I've learned along my journey that have helped me and that I hope help you too. It's part 2 of my 3-parter with the fabulous Rev Rainbow Weldon, queer New Thought minister, conscious creator, sacred activist, and founder and spiritual director of the Queer Spirit Collective, an online community for connection, joy, and community. In part 2, Rainbow shares what it looks like to practice spirituality in everyday life, aka when it's hardest for most of us to be spiritual. And we talk about her journey into ministry. It's super cool. And how she celebrates her queer identity in her spiritual message. Recorded in late 2025, this interview with Rainbow is an amazing example of the power of manifestation and keeping your heart and your eye on the prize, as she is now the founder and spiritual director of Queer Spirit Collective, an online community celebrating joy and connection. So why don't we get into this convo, eh? Rainbow, you're on.
So tell me, you say manifester. I would love to hear about your manifestation process, how that looks for you, how you practice that.
Yes, and it's funny, the reason, the context in which I wrote manifester in my bio is not even necessarily about the idea of manifesting, but it's the type I am. Y'all, there's all these different systems, and human design.
Yes. I've heard of
I'm
this.
a manifester type of human design.
Oh, fabulous.
So that has its own other things that really has nothing to do with the idea of what we kind of think about as manifester. But when I wrote that, and I knew, I was like, people aren't really going to probably know what I'm talking about, like human design manifester. Some may, or some may not. Yeah. But even if they just read it as a manifester, well, that's true too. So it was
because I mean, you manifested your own spiritual center. Can you share how that came about? Because I feel like that really ties into the manifester.
Sure. Yeah. So manifesting, this idea of allowing something to be from a heart's desire, and being that conscious creator with your life. And so, this other random story is coming up from childhood, which I'm going to tell, and then I'll tell the Ahava one too. So, I say childhood, but I was actually college. So my sophomore year, I know it is still young, even then. But sophomore year in college, my best friend from childhood went and studied abroad in Costa Rica for ecology, biology, something. And so she was there for a semester, but during the summer break, I was like, I want to go visit her. I want to go to Costa Rica. And this was, so I set that intention. And again, it's like, okay, it's like, where's the money going to come, and all that kind of stuff. And then this is back when we had newspapers. So her mom found like an ad and circled it and brought it over in a newspaper about some like charter flights that you could also like buy in on. And like get a really, so it was like $100 ticket or something.
I know. Yeah, I've heard of these. Yeah.
I'm still looking back. I'm kind of like, I didn't know what I was doing. And my parents were like, here, get on this charter flight for $100 to Costa Rica. You're fine. You're 19.
Great idea, Rainbow. We're behind you all the way.
Anyway, so I find this super cheap flight, and then I've always been real like resourceful in that way of like, if I want to do something, then it's like open up, and just like got some like babysitting gigs from my neighbor, and then I noticed he had like all this like extra lumber sitting out or something, so I just asked him about it, and he's like, oh, I've been meaning to take that back to return it to Home Depot or whatever. I just don't ever have the time. And I'm like, well, how about I take it back for you and keep 20%? He's like, sure, or whatever, you know. It's like
Oh
those
my
kind
God.
of things.
How industrious of you as a
Yes, yes.
child. Let me see.
I was like, what about, I know.
Perfect.
Yes. I used to paint rocks and go around the neighborhood and sell rocks, you know,
I
for 10 cents.
Every little
Yeah.
bit counts. And, it just speaks to me that your intention was pure on, I want to go. I'm not confused about that in any
Yeah.
way. So
Yeah.
your eyeballs and your mind were like, how do we make it happen?
Yeah. And seeing the things that maybe always been there, but
Mm-hmm.
had I not tuned to that, I wouldn't be tuned to that possibility and set that
Yeah.
intention, like noticing it. So anyway, that's just kind of the way like life just kind of was a lot for me, kind of growing up with using the spiritual principles in that way. So I was at a time in my ministry where I was ready to become a spiritual director and, be the spiritual director of my own center, and started doing some visioning around what that might look like in my ministry and all this. And this symbol of a wagon wheel came through. At first, I wasn't sure if it was like a bike spoke or what it was. And then I go on this 3-month journey of on the road traveling, and, have our just turned 3-year-old daughter in the back and traveling around the country, speaking, doing workshops at different New Thought communities, and just kind of, seeing like what's going to be next, where it's a new beginning, where in the country do I want to live? And I was coming from Chicago. So the first stop I end up doing from Chicago was coming to this center called Ahava Center for CSL, Ahava Center for Spiritual
Okay.
Living.
So it existed already.
Yeah, so I did not found Ahava. It found me.
Aw.
As I said that, I felt like I just had to say that because that just sounded like one of those cheesy thoughts. But I guess it is
I
kind of
love
still
it.
true. Like, I didn't find
It's
Ahava.
wonderful.
It found me. So I walk in the door, my first, stepping out, leap on faith, first gig on the road trip, and there's a big wagon wheel on the wall. And I'm like,
Oh my
"What?"
gosh. You were like, uh-oh.
Yeah. And then talking with Reverend Sunny Cantrell Smith, who founded Ahava,
Okay.
she invites me into her office, and there's a quilt with wagon wheels, all this wagon wheels
Oh my
symbology.
God.
And so
That's
I'm like,
incredible.
yeah, I'm like, so what does this mean to you? Because it means something to me, and it obviously means something to you.
Yeah.
And she shared that symbol had come to her envisioning around her ministry, which made her know that she needed to come to Lexington, Kentucky, and found this center.
Oh my
And
God.
Lexington, Kentucky is shaped like a wagon wheel. Like
Oh
there's the
my gosh.
downtown, and then there's all these roads
You were
that
called.
like a spoke. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. They were like, here, this is where you're going.
So that I continued my
Mm.
my trip and explored other places, but I have now been in Lexington, Kentucky for 6.5 years.
Wow. Look at
Yeah.
that. That's
Came
incredible.
in, and it wasn't, even though at first I thought I was looking for a community, that I was looking for a spiritual leader, a spiritual director, solo minister. It was, again, the perfect path from some other, healing and different things that I didn't even know needed to occur, by coming in and working with Reverend Sunny for 2.5 years or 3 years or so first, before
No.
then she retired from that
How
to be that.
perfect.
So it was like that partnership and that mentorship and the space to, learn a new community and everything.
Wow, what a
And
gift.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
some major manifesting.
And then the curveballs, right? So you manifest, and I'm not saying there aren't times when you think like, yes, this is so divinely perfect, I can't even have imagined it, that
Yeah.
the curveballs don't come and you're like, why am
Yeah.
I here? What's
Mhm.
going,
Yeah.
But 8 months after being here was COVID. So it was
Oh
like
my
the
goodness.
ministry I thought I was walking into totally had to take on a new form. And so much change through that. But
Yeah.
it was also, an opportunity for a lot of creativity. And amongst all of that, that was COVID. Not dismissing any of that, but there was also a lot of creative joy in like doing something different. And how are we going to, that, I guess that ADHD part of me was like, okay, like something new, something different. What are we going to do? Yeah. And coming up with creative ideas of ways to gather and ways to create community online. And I think one of my favorite ones being drive-through prayer that came through revisioning with our practitioners.
Oh my God, I love it.
So fun. People would drive up. We were outside. It was cold, and we were all, gloved up and masked up, and had people drive up, and we'd give them some coffee, and then they go to the next stop, and practitioners are standing there with big poster boards with their phone number, and you call from your phone and get a prayer.
Oh my God, that is genius.
Yeah.
And so freaking cute.
It really was.
Oh my God, I can't stand it.
I know.
Oh my God, that is so precious. You know what? It probably meant so much to them at that time. It was such a scary time.
It was.
And it was isolating, and we had no community. And to do something that like community and personal feeling and just so fun and folksy.
Exactly. And we did it like in a short time frame too, so it wouldn't be like we're outside just like waiting all day. So it was like a line of cars. So like people kind of got to like honk and see, or, some people got out and talked outside if they were comfortable, but it like brought everyone together within like a 2-hour window or so, But
in a way that they felt safe to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is amazing. I wanted to kind of just track back one hot second because I forgot to ask you about when you got the call to ministry. How did that come to you?
Standing in the ocean in Hawaii.
Oh, so you guys were living there at the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were living there with your wife at the time.
Yes. And went there teaching children's theater. Got a contract with the Army to do theater and arts classes with the kids there on the Army base. So that's what brought us to Hawaii. And then there was a CSL church there that I got involved in. I had just become a licensed spiritual practitioner within CSL, which is, like a step before becoming a minister, and a wonderful way of being in the world and supporting people as well. So when I got really involved in that CSL as well. And it was a smaller community. I mean, it was the island of Oahu. And they sent me to a leadership conference in LA to represent the church. And I next thing you know, it's like I have the church office in my studio apartment. I'm speaking, when she needs someone to cover or be
they really run you in. They were like,
they were like young blood.
Yes, get here.
Yes, and the minister retired, a few years later after we left, or a handful of years, so she was kind of at that point of like, yay,
let me find someone.
Yes. And so it really gave me, though, the opportunity to experience that. I felt like that was almost like my internship in a way. But I still remember the first time I spoke, gave a Sunday message, and that was a different time, but I was a practitioner student still in Chicago, and there was a New Thought Center up in Milwaukee that was looking for guest speakers. And I bring that up because after that first time when I spoke, I was like stepping off the stage and sitting back down, and my mom was there, and I kind of looked at her and was like, uh-oh. She's like, what? I was like, I really liked that.
Oops. I think I'm going to be a minister.
It's like that getting by the bug, by the theater bug. I felt that about the ministry and giving the talk and all that. And then when I spoke for the first time at Bodhi Spiritual Center in Chicago. Again, I was a practitioner, not a minister. I don't know. I was a ministerial school dropout. That's another story. And then I finished up later. And anyway, so I can't remember where I was and if I was a minister at that point. I think I had started back classes to actually finish now. But anyway, the first time I spoke in Chicago, and I'm walk up as I'm getting from my seat up to, I've just been introduced, I hear this voice, or I just have this knowing, and this isn't something that happens to me a lot. But it was like, you were born for this.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
And it just felt like, so that was just another one of those moments.
Holy shit. That's
so
amazing.
The calling has come in various ways in different moments, but there was a specific time that I remember standing in the ocean at this beach and where we kind of first lived. And it was like, and I don't know, it was like this, it was, again, I kind of got that message. And that way it was like, this could be yours, like this church, this center, like this could be yours.
In
like
Hawaii.
Like you could, and I feel like there's so many different paths, right? And I was like, okay, but I don't know that I want this church, like living in Hawaii was a whole other experience, and I felt very isolated, and I need to be more grounded. I need to be like in the woods, in the, by the ground,
community,
with a lot of people around, and not feel like I'm like floating on this island in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Because it is an island, like away from everything else energetically.
Yeah. And I really felt that. I felt that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
In an interesting way. So, but I remember saying at that time, oh, wow, like this calling thing is a real thing. Like I did, until I experienced it, and I still couldn't quite put it to words, but I knew there was something in that moment that felt like.
Got in your body.
And I can't remember if it was before or right after that they sent me to the leadership conference. It may have been before, and then I go to this leadership conference, and then I was feeling so isolated and just like couldn't find my people, didn't fit in Hawaii, like this whole thing. Then I go to this CSL leadership conference, and I'm like, oh, and it's at Asilomar, which is
love Asilomar.
A lot of history. It's beautiful.
Big Sur, everyone.
Yeah.
Big Sur, California. There's nowhere more beautiful than Asilomar.
And so this Asilomar State Park is like a sacred ground to,
amazing.
Folks in our movement, because Dr. Ernest Holmes, that's where he would gather people on retreat. And he did the famous Sermon by the Sea right there. So the leadership conference is there. I'm like with my people, and I'm like, oh, this is what I've been, missing or some, and it's a leadership conference. So it's spiritual practitioners and ministers, or, board members, or, and it just felt really like this is where I'm supposed to be. Heard a couple of ministers speak, heard someone speak, and I was like, that's supposed to be my teacher, and I'm going to be a minister, and I just think I have these moments where I just see it and I say it. I went up to him. I'm like, I'm supposed to be, I was like, I feel like you're supposed to be my spiritual teacher, and I want to be a minister. And he was like, great. I just started up a new class, come. And so it's like moved my whole life. I moved my whole life many times, following that guidance.
Yeah. So then after Hawaii, where you moved, did you move back to Chicago?
Hawaii moved to LA to
study,
to do ministerial studies. Only were there for 9 months.
Okay.
Didn't resonate with LA.
Yeah. LA's got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Very moving and shaking.
Yeah. And I really miss Chicago. So even though I get, I moved to Chicago as a young adult, and around that time, especially in Hawaii, I moved from there, and in LA, it was like a heartache. It was like a breakup, and I'd like miss this city.
Such a good city.
It is. Yeah. It's still one of my favorite big city. So following that guidance, I was in there, but it's a long story, but moved to Michigan after that for a little bit. And then eventually made my way back to Chicago, and now Lexington, Kentucky, which when I told some of my friends, we went on this whole road trip, what's next in my journey? Guess what? I'm moving to Lexington, Kentucky. And they're like, they don't know if I'm joking, how or something. They're like, are you gonna be okay? Like, because especially from Chicago, you just
Yeah,
think Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, whatever, but it's
right.
like, there's really amazing salt of the earth people here and spiritual
Yeah,
seekers, and it's like
yeah,
queer people,
yeah,
we're everywhere, and
yeah,
not just in the big cities, and my nervous system really needed a slower approach to life.
yeah.
I think, the only reason I really survived living in the city that long is because of the lake. I love Lake Michigan,
Yes. Love,
and that provided
love.
enough of that nature and grounding presence.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna
yeah.
say, just as you were saying that, I'm like, I know there is a good, very strong queer community in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I would love to get into that and discuss that. Um, to share about,
Mhm.
your identity and how that is in your teachings and in your ministry.
Sure, yeah. So, yes, here in Lexington, there's a lot of history specifically around the drag community.
Mm.
And there is someone from the 1920s named Sweet Evening Breeze. She was
Oh
known as
my
Sweets.
God.
Yes.
Yes. Ah!
And she would, I mean, the
I love it.
1920s, y'all. Picture this. Picture this.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
In Lexington, and a Black trans woman
Mm.
walking around Lexington
Yes.
in beautiful gowns.
Yes.
And she was just someone who would just talk to everyone and was really known, and like, got to know people in the government and, different things, and was really respected in the
Mm.
community.
Mm.
And then there were several people that people would come through town, and her home was a place kind of refuge.
Mm.
And there's a bar that's still downtown that uh it used to be called like the living room, the bar complex now, but it I'll have to look up, but it was like a place where a lot of even like famous actors and different
Mhm.
authors and different people would come and meet up in kind of in this central location. And there was I recently we did a vigil on National Coming Out Day.
Mm.
Myself, and I'm a part of this group called the Lexington Affirming Faith Coalition.
I love that.
We just started it about a year and a half
Beautiful.
ago. Yeah.
Mm.
And it has been so nurturing to me, to all of us as progressive spiritual, affirming spiritual leaders, ministers, clergy, whatnot, during these times,
Mm.
and in the city and in a
Yeah.
state where there is all this anti-trans legislation, and
Mm.
even
Yeah.
stuff going on at the University of Kentucky,
Mm.
and places and spaces that used to be, I mean, we've had the fairness ordinance since the 90s here in Lexington. We have all this history, right, of being
Yeah.
affirming, and then it is a little bit like a bubble though in the Lexington compared to the bigger state of Kentucky,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
so state legislator and all these things, passing these things. So that group has been very supportive, and we held a vigil. I know I feel like I'm talking in circles, but I am getting
No,
all
I'm
to
with
the same
you.
point.
You're
Okay.
good.
Group vigil
Yeah, I'm
on
all
coming
over
out
it.
day. Yes.
Yeah.
And we called it a vigil of queer joy and mourning, right? So holding
Mm.
space for all of that, because
Mm.
there is so much to mourn right now in what is happening in our world, but there has always been so much to mourn in the queer community, going
Yeah.
back to the AIDS epidemic. And
Yeah.
um so the holding space for that mourning, but also honoring our legacy and leaning into, we've always been here, we always will be here, into that
Mm.
uniqueness of queer joy.
Yeah. I
Um
love that because it's
finding
like
hope.
so truthful, so
Yeah.
honest and truthful. Like, this is what's happening. This is
Yeah.
here too.
Right.
And it's also a wonderful, and
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
hard at the same
Yeah.
time.
Holding
Yeah.
it all, and we kind
Yeah.
of and it was great. There's a very progressive Baptist church here. So there was someone here, Baptist minister. We did the event outside on a labyrinth that another community has, and Presbyterian, Unitarians, a handful of us that came together to create this evening. But I shared a little bit about honoring the legacy and some of this queer history, which is why it's even fresh on my heart and mind.
Yes. So important
But
right now.
yeah. And the stories of marginalized people standing up against oppressors.
Yes.
So that's what Sweets did. And she had someone that was under her house of drag family that was arrested at the gay bar, and for wearing a disguise is what they officially wrote, for being a drag performer.
He was in drag.
Yeah.
Drag.
Well, that was another delightful chat with the incredible Rainbow Weldon. In part 3, Rainbow shares about grief, loss, identity, and what happens when life strips away the roles and people you've oriented around, and you're left with the question, who am I now? See you there, boo. As always, this has been the Spiritual Shit Show podcast. My name is Suzanne Soul. Thank you so motherfucking much for listening, and I will see you on the next one, darling. Roll it, lover.